welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking about how to look at your writing on a scene level. Now I don't mean scene, I mean scene. That was dumb, that should go in outtake. Now by a scene level, I mean looking at every single scene that is in your book and making sure that it is doing its job and pulling its weight. And the way that I do this is that I make sure each scene is pulling at least double duty, if not triple or quadruple duty. Now the way that I do this is that there are four main things that I think are very integral to making sure a story is moving forward, and I need each scene to be hitting at least two of those four main things, if not 3 or 4. So the four main things that I think a scene should be addressing is the main external plot, or the main conflict that is happening, the main internal plot, or the main internal character development and character growth, the main world building of the story, and finally relationship building. So how a character interacts and grows in those interactions with other characters around them. So I'm just going to quickly go over each of these like small things, and then I will give you examples at the end. So the first thing is making sure the main external plot is moving forward, and that's pretty simple. You can just use a beat sheet like Save the Cat and make sure that each of these plot points are being addressed within your story. And when you look at your individual scene, you need to make sure that it is moving towards the next integral main plot beat point, so that you are moving forward the external story and that nothing is sitting stagnant for way too long. So when I'm talking about internal conflict or internal plot, I'm talking about character growth. So in general, in most stories, especially when it comes to children's literature like middle grade or YA, a character should be changed by the end of the story. It could be for the better, it could be for the worse. It's up to you as the writer to decide which one it is, but in general, a character will start a certain way in the beginning of the story, and over the course of learning what they do in the plot, they end a separate way. So in general, we could look at Harry, and he in Harry Potter, and he is a very shy muggle who thinks that he is not special, and then by the end he realizes that he is not only special, he is the chosen one to save the whole entire wizarding world and beyond, and he needs to gain bravery in order to meet that greater destiny. The next thing is talking about world building. Now this can vary depending on what genre of story you're writing, but I have argued before, and I will argue until my dying breath, that no matter where and when the story is set, world building is important, if only because where a book is set like really does influence the characters and why they act the way they act. So someone who was born and raised in New York City would act very, very different than someone who was born and raised on a cattle ranch in Montana, or someone who was born and raised in Shanghai. So this all does really affect the character, so world building still is very important. And if your scene can add a little bit more to the world building of the story, then that is great as well. The final thing that can be incorporated into any scene is the relationship building. Now, this is a little bit of a more subtle thing, and it is not necessarily always going to be the case for every story. There are a few stories where characters are literally not interacting with anyone for a very, very long time. But I will say that most stories show that a character cannot exist within isolation, especially in children's literature, which is my bread and butter. So in general, I like to make sure that a character's relationships with the people around them is also being developed. Now, this can also go towards making sure that none of your ancillary or side characters are two-dimensional, because that is actually a problem that I see a lot in stories, is that you add sidekicks or side characters, best friends, parents, mentors, just to like be a vehicle to teach your main character a lesson, and that can get really boring, because then it just implies that the only special and cool person is your main character, and everyone else around them is like a cardboard cutout of some kind of stereotype or some kind of trope, and that's not very interesting. What makes your main character interesting is how they interact with the people around them, and if you can build those relationships and develop them so that they change from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, then all the better. So now when you look at your scene, if you can see that it is doing both a character development moment and a world building moment, then that's great. It's pulling double duty, and that scene is very, very integral to your story, and it is not slowing down the pace or any important aspects of your overall story. And that is a nice little cheat to know that that scene is doing a good job, and you should keep it in your book. This is also a tool that can be used in order to see if a scene is a lightweight scene and isn't really important. Maybe the one thing that that scene accomplishes, like the one world building element, could actually be tacked on to a different scene that is doing way more, and therefore this scene is just superfluous and could probably go. So it is a really nice tool to use not only for drafting, but also for revising after the fact. Now, I promised that I would give you some character moments, and I am going to do that right now. But just so you know, spoiler alerts, because a lot of these scenes are happening in the middle of a story, so definitely be aware of that. The first scene is from The Hunger Games. I use it a lot because I assume most people have watched the movie or read the book, and it is that moment where Katniss hears the announcement that 2 people can be champions this year as long as they are from the same district. Now, this is a really important moment because it shows something about Katniss's character. It shows that she does not want to kill people, and if she can save a life, even if it's only one other life, then she's going to do that. And it's really nice because this comes in a really dark moment for Katniss, like after Rue has died and she's really sad. She tried to keep Rue alive and she realized that it's just impossible to do that in the Hunger Games. But now she is given this tool to potentially save another life, aka Peeta's life, and she goes looking for him. Now, the other thing that this really does is it develops Katniss's relationship with Peeta, because up until now she was wondering if Peeta was on her side or not, because she saw him hanging out with the careers and she thought that maybe he was after her. But now she's like, nope, I gotta save Peeta. He's from my district. I've known him since I was a kid. I need to like turn this around and make sure that we can both survive. And therefore it develops both her perceived relationship with Peeta as well as the character of Katniss herself. So that is doing double duty, and it is a very important scene to the story, and therefore it is helping to pull forward the pacing in a way that is fast and interesting for our reader. Another great moment is in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone, where there is a troll in the dungeon. Actually, the troll is not in the dungeon, but we don't know that yet. Harry and Ron are told to go back to their common room, but they realize that Hermione is missing because she has been crying in the bathroom. Now, up until now, Hermione has been a pest to Ron and Harry. They do not like her, but in this moment, they realize that maybe they're mean to her too, because one of the reasons that she is in the bathroom crying is because Ron was saying mean things about her. So in a great character moment and a relationship moment, they run off to the girls' bathroom in order to warn Hermione. However, once they get there, the troll is there. So they have to fight the troll as a threesome for the very first time, and they defeat it. So what this scene is doing, it's actually triple duty. It is a character moment for Harry and Ron. They are good people. They're just 11-year-old boys, and that's why they were mean to Hermione before. It is a relationship moment, is building their friendship with Hermione, which until now was non-existent or very combative. And finally, it shows the plot moving forward of Harry taking his first step to being a hero against what is a threat to the castle. So these 3 things are really important for the whole story overall. The scene is very interesting and dynamic. It is definitely a keeper. So those are my 2 examples of scenes that are pulling double or triple duty. So when you go back to look at your manuscript, make sure that each of your scenes is doing just that. And it is a nice way to make sure that you are moving the story along at a nice fast pace, and that you are not kind of languishing in nothing land for, you know. So those are my quick tips and tricks for scene level writing and revision. If you have any comments or questions, you can do them as a comment down below, or you can tweet at me at CatShow. And if you like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up or a subscription to this channel, and I'll see everybody next time. Happy writing! Bye!